Welcome to KnownSources, the traceability reporting platform for oil palm-based products. This video is part of a series of short tutorials that will assist you in understanding how to best use the platform. This is part 1, Inputs. In order to successfully submit traceability reports, you will have to provide two types of data. The first, called entities or master data, consists of data that you will submit once and only maintain over time. These are names and addresses of your headquarters, processing sites, intermediate suppliers and originating mills, and it's also information about raw materials and products and your compliance to social and environmental standards. The second type, called trace points or transactional data, is data on your monthly receipts and dispatches. I will show you now in detail how this works. The first step is of course logging into the KnownSources website. You will have been provided with a URL and with credentials for logging in. If not, please contact our support. After having successfully logged in, you will need to provide some master data, or entities as we call them. The first entity that you will need to provide is data about your headquarters, which we call company data. In the form you will see some fields indicated by a red flag that are mandatory, some fields indicated by a blue flag which are recommended, and some fields which have no flag at all, which can be filled in at your leisure. In the form itself you will find things like names, you will find some Unilever specific data that you might want to request from Unilever if you don't know it. You will also find an address. This address then is converted into GPS coordinates. You might want to check the GPS coordinates by looking at the map. More importantly, you can here also provide information about your membership, in particular your RSPO membership, if you possess such a membership at headquarter level. In addition, you will be able to provide a URL and a site picture. The next entity that you will have to configure is the processing sites. This is of course a list. You can create a new item by finding the link to create a new processing site. Otherwise, you can simply click on the little pencil icon to edit an existing processing site. There are two main differences between the two forms. The first is the billing unit. Each processing site will bill through a particular billing unit of your company, and this is the unit that you need to configure here. The second difference is data on certification in addition to data on membership. The next entity that you need to provide is supplier. Suppliers here refers to the suppliers of your raw materials. This is again a list, of course, since there are going to be quite a number of them. You can create a new element on this list by clicking the Create New Supplier button. Or you can edit an existing one by clicking on the little pencil, the icon for edit. The form for the supplier is exactly identical to the form for a processing site. So again, you will have to fill in the name, addresses from which we will derive GPS coordinates, and the memberships and certifications that these supplier may have. The next item are originating mills. Originating mills are those where fresh fruit bunches are milled into crude palm oil and palm kernels. You can access the entity exactly as the other entities that you have seen before, and it has in the top part also the same fields. In the bottom part, however, there are a few differences. The first difference is the recording of the greenhouse gas emissions. These emissions are calculated according to the Palm GHG methodology. Please refer to the user manual for further instructions. The next question asks you whether you have information on compliance of those mills to Unilever policies. If you have such information, then please fill in the questionnaire below. The questionnaire asks 12 very detailed questions about the mill, in particular in relationship with Unilever sustainable sourcing policies. So there are questions about deforestation, about peatlands, about positive impact to people and other areas. Please note that this information is voluntary for the time being. None of the 3 data elements that are in difference to the ones that we've seen before are mandatory. The next entity refers to the raw materials that you purchase. This entity works exactly the same way as the other ones. So first you get a list which you can search. If you want to, you can create a new element, or you can go and edit an existing element by choosing the little pencil, our icon for editing. In the entity itself, you will first have to provide us with a name and then potentially with a raw material code. If the raw material has a single or main supplier, then you might want to configure it here to help you later with data input. This is voluntary. You will then have to tell us whether the material is segregated. If it is, then automatically it is set to 100% default traceable, whereas in the other case there is no default % traceable. Then you will have to define the allocation factors, so the percentage of PK, palm kernel, and PO, palm oil, in the raw material. This data, of course, is handled confidentially and no buyer will be able to access it. Finally, you can provide a comment. In case you find yourself referring to the same suppliers all the time or the same groups of mills all the time, then our grouping facility might be of use to you. A grouping is a very simple thing. Basically, you supply a label and those suppliers or mills that you would like to refer to when you use that label. Later on, you can use a label in the operational record keeping, and then when you refer to the label, you will refer to the whole group. You can later on in the operational record keeping change the constituents of a group. So this is simply a helper for you to input data more efficiently. In order to facilitate the bulk upload of data, you can upload Excel sheets for all the entities that we've shown before. For that, you need to choose Export Data, then the Excel format, and finally press the Export button. This will download an Excel sheet to your local computer. Once you have opened that Excel sheet, you can make all necessary modifications. You can, for example, add lines, you can modify lines, and within the lines you can modify all the parameters that you please. As long as you keep the Excel sheet in its format, we will be able to read it again. If you're done with your modifications, you save it, and then you imported it via the Import Excel facility. This concludes the first part, the entities or master data part. Now we come to the second part, the trace points or transactional data. There are 2 types of trace points, receive and dispatch. In receive, you will have to provide information about the raw materials that you receive in a particular reporting period, currently a month. In dispatch, you will be provided with information about the accepted dispatches that have been sent to the buyer in a particular reporting period. Let's look at receive first. In order to go to receive, you need to find operations in the top level menu and then choose receive from the list of trace points. Once the form is open, you will have to select the reporting period and then the processing site that you're reporting for. The next, you will select a raw material, and data that you have pre-configured in the raw material entity will be shown already here. In the section on suppliers, you can choose from a particular group if you have configured one, and then you will list all the members of that group, which you can then edit. So you can remove a member, or you can edit another member to that group of suppliers if you have forgotten one for this particular raw material in this processing site and this reporting period. The same goes for the originating mills. You can select a group where you will get then a list of all the mills that might have contributed. You can review that list and make changes, like removing or adding to the list. Once you have provided all the information about the suppliers and the mills, we will get to the raw material itself. First, you should probably import the composition data that you have pre-configured to load from a default values. If this raw material is different, then you can change the values. Here you need to put in the % traceable and then the total volume that you received of this raw material at this processing site for this reporting period. Once you're done with that, then you will save it and the received trace point is recorded. In each form you can submit as many raw materials as you like for that particular processing site. You will then have to repeat the process for all processing sites that have produced material within the reporting period. Dispatches work a little different since the data is provided by the buyers. Once you open the dispatch trace points, you will find a list of open trace points. That's what we call them. So these are deliveries to the suppliers within a certain reporting period to a certain sourcing unit from a certain billing unit. You can search for certain items. You can limit, for example, by reporting period or by sourcing unit or by billing unit, whatever you prefer. And then you can open one of the open elements. Open in this case means that there's some action required by you. Now, in principle, this form is mostly informative, with the exception of the % segregated. We are working currently on determining automatically the % segregated by using different product codes for segregated and non-segregated materials and obtaining that list from the buyers. This is currently not possible, so you're kindly requested to configure manually for the time being the % segregated. Once you have done that, you can close the trace point and save the data, and it will disappear from the list of open trace points, so of trace points that require your attention. We will show you in the second part of this video tutorial how to access information that you have submitted into the system. This concludes part 1 of our video tutorials on KnownSources, the traceability reporting platform for oil palm-based products provided by FoodReg. We look forward to welcoming you to our second part, which will be on outputs.